Alright, I'm back now, and it's been like a week since we built the solar oven because it's been like a non-stop week of either rain or just totally cloudy days. Just a little bit of sun sometimes, but not enough to really make an attempt at solar cooking. In fact, this is really a terrible time to be solar cooking in general because this is the dead of winter. We have a reasonably warm day here in the desert, but if I could show you the angle of the sun, it's behind me, and I don't know if the camera will pick it up. Oh, because the sun has moved a little bit. It's over here now. It's just, yeah, it's too bright to pick it up. But basically, the sun is just like right there. It's like it's hardly above the horizon at all, and that's going to create problems for our solar cooking. I'll show you exactly why that is in terms of like geometry, and because I didn't totally understand until I really just thought about it. And it's like, oh yeah. So I'll show you how that works with a solar cooker and why it's really not very optimal at all to do it at any other time other than basically summer. That's your high cooking season. You got to have the sun high enough in the sky so that you're having a lot of direct light, and then you can add the reflectors for additional light. But if you're not really getting direct light into the solar oven, it's not going to work as well as you might hope. So even though I hoped to make a solar oven that can allow us to do some like serious baking, and we're not talking about serious baking, by the way, like you know, where your recipe translates exactly from what's in the book, heated up to 350 Fahrenheit, or at least, or 350, 400, or talking Celsius, then you're talking about somewhere around 200s or thereabout Celsius. And we're not going to be able to do that. We're going to do some low temperature cooking in the area of around the boiling point, basically. Boiling point of water. And right about that time is when food can actually like start cooking, other than just sort of warming it up. It can actually start chemically doing some things that are cooking. What you're not going to be able to get is any like fancy browning effects and stuff like that. There's really no solar cookers who can really do that, or solar ovens anyway, that can do that. The parabolic cookers, sometimes they can do that. They can do some grilling and stuff like that. We can do some really basic, it'll be like kind of like easy bake oven sort of cooking, right? So you're gonna have to modify your recipes and allow for a really long time to cook. We're talking about something that you can leave in there for at least 3 hours at these low temperatures. In the peak of summer, you might be able to pull it off some things in about 2 hours, an hour to 2 hours, depending on how much time you need to do it in the original case. But if it's a long cooking thing, double it, maybe even triple it when you're trying to do it in the winter. So it's one of those kind of things, you set it up and you go back and check on it, just turn the angle a little bit, maybe every half an hour when you're in these types of conditions, when you don't have the sun right over top of you, giving you a lot of direct sunlight. So let's unbox. This is really pretty cool. We have, it's almost like a little care package. I should have put a ribbon on here, that would have been cool. So let me flip the camera just a little bit so I can show you what we have here. We'll set it up in this box. In fact, I'm going to use this box to do our cooking right on there. And it'll be good if I can zoom in on there. I don't know if this video will let me do that. Doesn't look like it will. Okay, so untie that. Top comes off, and this is our top, and it has a reflector on here. Like that. Yeah, oops, there's still stuff inside. So inside here, there's some parts. And these are some of the wall parts. And you can see that it comes apart like that. Right, and then we're going to flip the sides down. So I'll set that aside. And there's a couple of other parts to go into it. And you see that I, of course, put foil on it. I painted the walls black to give us a little extra boost. And I'll explain it when it's all connected up. Another wall, inside walls. This is the bottom of our inside, and this is the inside of the whole contraption. So we got that. So let's start setting it up. Take the outside walls, and then the black part goes on the bottom. That'll be our outside wall in general. And we do is we set it inside there like that. Push the wall out, and then let's see which way did I do it. Flip them out, and then push the bottom down, and then we got like an inch here, like that. There's another one about an inch there. And I'll tell you, the most tedious part of doing this whole thing, you know, we did the video and that was fun, and then I went away and put the foil on and stuff. Putting the foil on was such a tedious process. I don't really want to do many more of those like that. So we got that. That's in. And then we want to put little risers on there. So I don't know if you remember what I did for a riser. I think I expanded it after the video. So I don't think there's a particular way you need to put it together, but maybe there was. We'll see. Just do that, and then that works. So I don't know if that just happened magically or if there's a couple different ways you can put it together. Then we have something like that. Yeah, I think I did put it together slightly different than it originally meant to. So that's sufficient for our purposes, and we'll set that in there. And then this is the bottom. Set that in. And it seems to be tipped for some reason. Let me figure what's up with that. Okay. Inside, same deal. Right direction. Oh, upside down. There's my top. And then let's see. Right. Ends first. These go down, and one additional thing is, in order to get it to fit really well, just cut the corner off a little bit on each side. Set it down inside. This foil, yeah, one thing about foil, gluing foil on there is it just wants to come off. And it also tends to be a little bit heat activated, which means that it's going to kind of want to come off on its own. And then we have a little floor. There's a lot of ways that you could do floors. Optimally, you'll find some kind of black metal. You might even, I think a good thing would be find a steel baking sheet. That, you know, it'll be thin, it'll be dark colored, especially if it's black. But you probably even use like black nonstick too, because we're not going to get high enough temperatures where we're going to have to worry about like burning off. But if you want to be totally safe, just get yourself an old baking sheet that's it's already basically turned black, you know, at a thrift store. In this case, we just used, you know, some foil, covered it with some tempera paint, which is non-toxic and cheap. You know, it's basically like kids stuff. And then it gives us a little bit of insulation, rises off the bottom. And we need the black on the bottom to collect the sun. If all we have in there is reflective stuff, it's just going to bounce it around and bounce it back out of the top. So that's not very helpful. That's where I want it. Let me adjust the video. So, okay. So then we have our turkey bag. All we got to do is stick it up on top there like that. A little bit of wind becomes really annoying really fast. Let me get it on this side. And then we put the top on. I feel like I'm missing that little the little thing. There it is. So if you want, you could glue it on there on the inside. I kind of like the ability to straighten it up from the outside, give it a little tug to tighten it. But it might be better to actually just kind of glue it in place. Not sure about that yet. Okay, and then for the reflector, just do this. Put it up, and then let's see, I'll do it on this side so you can see better what I'm doing. You'll set it in there like this, and then because it's corrugated and they're just fluting along the side, just set it in there along any of the corrugations, depending on how high we want it. So if we want it, way up here, then we'll do it like that, and like that. And the way that you align it is that after you've assured that it's pointed at the sun by standing behind it and also seeing where the shadows are, if the shadows are straight, then, but all you got to do is just angle it so that you can see that it's pointed down. If you see it along the front wall, then and then it gets dark, then you got to back up a little bit. So I want to see the reflection along the front wall. So it's good, and I already have some markings over here that correspond to just about where I need it. Is that right? About right there. Okay. So now that we've got that, I'm gonna grab the camera and show you some other things about this. So one of the things you might notice about this, I was going to tell you about the geometry. And here's the thing. I'm going to take the angle of the sun, which is like right here, and that means that I have to, so there's my shadow. So I'm going to line it up towards me. Let me just change this. So now it's aiming me. I'm in the middle of it while sitting in the middle of it. So it should be pretty much pointed to me. Let's slide a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna have to adjust it in a minute anyway. So, taking the perspective of the sun, what we notice is like how much sun is this actually able to get? Well, it's able to get about like this much right there. It's like that much plus kind of that much. That is like the maximum collecting area for our stove when it's way down here at this angle. It's basically, and then you can imagine as we tip this down, and when the sun's even lower, then we're going to have like this much. Its only collecting area is just this much. Versus, imagine that if we're in the middle of summer and we're like right up here, that means we have all this collecting area plus a reflector, which might be kind of up here. So we'll have like this much collecting area, bigger than my fingers can handle. Versus if we come down here, you can see that's all the collecting area that we have. So our cooking power is greatly reduced in these weather conditions. There's another issue with this stove, and that is it's very small. It's kind of usable, but a way to change it in the future would be to have a much bigger box. Just get two boxes that are much bigger than this. And they're going to be collapsible, so we'll have it most of this, like about this thick, but it'll be bigger. But because it's only this thick, it'll still fit in a lot of places, right? So there's kind of no reason not to just go ahead and get yourself a much bigger thing. Of course it could get too big and then you'll have difficulty putting it places. But, I'd say a big square pizza box size, a large pizza, is probably a good size for a box. But I've seen people do it with these, and I've done it with these size, and they still work, especially in the middle of the summer. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll come up with some more thoughts, but let's get on to, let's try cooking some stuff. Oh, and there's one other thing. We're going to put our thermometer in there. That's a good indication, especially if you have recipes that require preheating, though for the most part, you know, what's the point of preheating when you're going to leave it out here in the sun for 3 hours, 4 hours anyway? And by the way, the time is right around 10 o'clock. Maybe it's a little bit later than that. So that's your optimal cooking time. So you're going to always try to aim your cooking, you know, set it out there by 9 o'clock, and then figure by 2 or 3, then you could start basically harvesting. You know, if it goes a little bit, if some of your items are quicker, then you'll be able to do a series of them during that time of the day. After that, it starts to get a little bit iffy, a little bit too low. But at this time of year, the sun doesn't really get that much lower than this. It just kind of stays right around there. Even down here in the southwest USA, it still kind of stays roughly about that angle. So we'll stick the thermometer in there and we'll start cooking. And there's a couple things that I wanted to do. So I'm going to prepare my food and I'll be right back. So I'm preparing the food right now, and I wanted to show you a couple other things I've been preparing in the meantime. I'll explain exactly what's going on with food preparation right now. So we set it up. You can see right here that I've added also a reflector. Let's spin the camera around so you just see what I did. I just laid out a reflector. So because the sun is coming at such a low angle, it's able to bounce off of here, go up to the reflector, and come in there. And you can sort of verify it by just standing right behind the oven and just seeing it. If you can see the sun within the reflector, then it's going to help. So it's adding a little bit, and I've definitely confirmed that it's working because the temperature is now, it's above the boiling point. It's really hard to see because it's a little bit foggy in there, but yeah, it's well above the boiling point. We could definitely do some baking in there and get some chemical reactions. This outside of this is very hot, and it's something that a lot of people don't do, it looks like. When I look on how to make solar ovens online, I notice a lot of people don't bother to paint it black, and that's an important thing. Most people are concentrated on the reflectors, but most of where you lose your heat is on the outside. And what you can do by heating up the outside is, at the very least, even if it doesn't get as hot as the inside, what it does is it decreases the temperature gradient. Like, it's basically less of a downhill. The heat just wants to flow out here, but if you put more heat outside on the outside of this, there's less pressure for the heat pushing outwards, would be a way to explain it. So by increasing the heat on the outside, you know, then that counts as like a warmer day, etc. The hotter you can make it out here, the better you'll be able to retain heat inside. Okay, so we got some boiling action going on there. So what I'm doing up here, so another way that you can help your solar oven out is by doing some pre-cooking. You're going to leave this out here to do your baking process for a long time. So this will probably go for about 2 hours, 3 hours maybe. And what I've done is I'm going to cook some potatoes. This is something I've always wanted to do on a solar oven, and I haven't gotten around to it. We're now blanching the potatoes. And I didn't really know this term. It's a term that's more used in food canning, preservation, as well as in some recipes. Okay, just pouring all the water out of here. Oops, lost a potato. Grab that potato, put it back in. So the thing about potatoes is that you want them to be, when you bake potatoes, you want them to be like fluffy, right? And if you cook them in a solar oven, there's a tendency, because you're not using such high temperatures, there's a tendency for it to be, just going to reuse that water for cooking some spaghetti. Let's bring it back here to the oven. So as I was saying, there's a tendency for baked potatoes in solar ovens cooked at low temperature to come out basically, the texture is not quite right. So that's one of the reasons why I put it off. But then I realized some people are recommending blanching ahead of time. So it looks like our temperature is up to 220, which is a really good temperature for one of these styles of ovens anyway. So we're going to set this in there. You notice the pot is black. It has a glass top. You generally want either a black top, black middle lid, or just use something that you can see through that and it's black inside. So close it up before it loses too much heat. And that's the easiest way to do it. Open it up a little bit. And it should be good to go. One of the things I didn't show you is also in my preparation, another little cheat for preheating the oven. Rather than just sit it out there in the sun for a couple hours, use some of my basically free my free fire up there, and I heated up a good rock that is also a dark color, so it will collect sunlight as well. So heat up a rock, it'll add a lot of heat in there, get it up to the right temperature, and also retain heat pretty well. Add some thermal mass to it, but not too much. You don't want to put enough in there that you start to make shadows and stuff like that. But it's a good way to get it preheated a little bit. It's not totally necessary to preheat when you're going to be leaving it out there all day, but it can speed things up a little bit. Just give yourself all the help that you can get as long as you have the resources. Why not? It's just like using lighter fluid. Some people, purists, might consider cheating, but you're just cooking a meal. Like, so what? Just do whatever you can to move the process along. And now I'm going to get it out of the way, stop making a shadow. And we'll just come back in about 2 hours and see how our potatoes are doing. Ha ha ha. Pretty much right after I finished that video, this is what's been happening all afternoon. The sky is mostly clear, except for clouds right where the sun is. And as a result, I don't know how well you can see the thermometer in there. You can see it at all. But I can tell you what it says is that it's the temperature has dropped to around 160, which is going to create a problem for our cooking. So it might just take longer. And what's going to happen if that's the case is, well, it might take longer. If the sun, we could probably cook it about this temperature. It would take a very long time to do it, but that's one of the things about solar cooking. You just expect to leave it out there and cook for a really long time. But the other thing is, if it doesn't finish, if I just get impatient basically, then I could always just stick it on the stove and finish it that way. Like it should be mostly cooked, and just stick it on there to get like some of the final effects and make it burst, and to make it like a real baked potato. But otherwise, this is looking pretty good. The sun is it's not that bad, really. It's just right now, it's just right on the edge. So there is a good, some hope that it's going to come into the blue again, and we can get some real solar baking going on. All right, so it is definitely time to check on these potatoes, because I think it's been about 3 hours. I just went ahead and left it. And one of the things to remember is that your food basically, it can't really burn. It's just such a low temperature. It'll just keep on, cook at a low level, but it's not going to get scorched or anything like that. So one other thing that I did in between the times, I think the last time I showed you, we had some cloud cover, and so one of the things I did, I'm going to try to help it out a little bit, is that I just had this other set of reflectors from another project, and I just lay that on top of there like that. And so long as it's aimed at the sun, then you just have a little bit of extra. And this especially helps because it's angled down a little bit. It picks up some of this bounced up to here and down. So it helps you get a little bit extra area in there, and it definitely helped. We were able to get it consistently over 200 after that period of about an hour when we had just very cloudy sky. Well, it wasn't cloudy skies. We had a few clouds in front of the sun basically that was interfering with the process. Lowered the temperature down to about 180 Fahrenheit. And now we've been, let's see, what does the thermometer say right now? Having a really hard time seeing. It's just under 200 right now because the sun is starting to go down just a little bit. So let's go ahead and open it up and check to see what's going on. Aha! Looks like this has, the tape has popped on this side, so that could be causing, it's definitely causing some leakage on this side. I did adjust the angle just a little bit. I realized, yeah, basically you look in there and see if it's getting maximally bright, and you just start tipping this, tip this, whatever you need to do to get the angle right so that it's very bright inside of there. So I'm going to take the top off and pull that back just a little bit. Check the thermometer for sure. Yeah, it's a little bit less than 200. But you know what? It smells like baked potatoes. It smells really good. So let me just take that out. In fact, let me get this reflector out of the way. No, I won't do that just yet because I don't know if they're done. It's steaming up pretty good. And let's see, can you even see the potatoes? Let me grab this camera. And see down there, I don't know if I actually really showed you what I was doing. We just have a little black pot. So, do a little crush test. Wow, that's pretty flaky. Pretty flaky, it looks like a baked potato. Yeah, that tastes good. It's a good baked potato. So I managed for the first time to cook 2 baked potatoes in my solar cooker, and I'm very pleased with that. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this. So on with more projects.